Hamites. They ruled all throughout that region, So it says, and Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. And Cush, this is one of the main characters that they get all these different mythologies from. The Trinity, the worship of the mother and child, and all those other different mythologies and different worship of these false gods. All these other nations that came after them, they're pretty much using that this as a catapult, so to speak, to bring out the madness, among their nation and people that look like them, So it says he was a mighty hunter before the Lord, and he did not encounter, him and two of his men did not encounter Esau, and they fought, and then Esau killed him and his two bodyguards. That's a bunch of nonsense that's found in the book, either book of Jasher or the book of Enoch. The fake book of Jasher. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord.
When we say the fake book of Jasher, there's an actual book of Jasher. Then there's one that's circulating right now that's not the real book of Jasher. So you got clowns like the GOCC reading out of that book, and they going off. That's not the book. Esau did that to make money and to keep you in darkness.
That's it. It says, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. And like I said, when you check out these lands, that extends all the way up, even up into Assyria. Iraq and those areas and those regions. You had the Cushites ruling way up there. But their land, their inheritance was the so-called land of Africa. That's what they call it today, but it used to be called the land of Ham. That was their dominion down there. It says, out of the land went forth Ashur and builded Nineveh. And you hear about Nineveh, that's in the land of Assyria. It says, and the city Rehoboth and Calah, and reasoned between Nineveh and Calah, the same as a great city. And they had a great dominion back then. Their dominion back then was great, man. They had a long reign and long time to rule. Even to one of their most notable kings, King Nebuchadnezzar. He was a great king that ruled on the planet. So much so that the Lord compared him to gold. He was the head of gold in the image in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter. It says, and Mizraim begot Ludum, and Anamim, and Lehabim, and Naphtuhim. Now Mizraim, that's where you get, that's the ancient name of the so-called modern-day Egyptians. Which the people that's in Egypt today, the majority of them are nothing but Ishmaelites, Arabs. But the people that was there before, the dark-skinned people, where the pharaohs ruled, in the different dynasties before the Ptolemaic Empire took over, those are the real Egyptians, So
if the real Egyptians, original Egyptians, Kemetic people, if they're no longer in that land because you have Arabs in that land, where are those original people? That's my question. Go ahead.
Well, that's a case of them removing the neighbor's landmark. It is right there.
But they have to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Did they all come to America?
Yeah. Yeah, where did they remove them to?
Are they in different parts of Africa?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do they look like? Do they look the same? Tall, dark, and black? Or tall and black?
Yep. Yeah, so there it is, brothers, a case of the landmark being removed.
That's it.
Just like the scriptures say.
Yeah, it says here, when you look up Ethiopia, I went from Cush, it says see Ethiopia, right? It says, I'm going to go into the middle of it. It says, okay, not to be, it mentions the White Nile, the Blue Nile at Khartoum, not to be confused with modern Ethiopia, i.e. Abyssinia. The Hebrew term is Cush, which the KJV, King James Version, 1611, keeps, but some translations use the Greek word Ethiopia, which means burnt faces, I believe, for Cush in Genesis 2, verse 13. It goes on to say, for 200 years, from about 1971 to 1786 BC, Egyptian control and trading adventurers penetrated further and further up the Nile, but were then forced to withdraw after expelling the Hyksos invaders, and that was circa 1550 BC. The Egyptian rulers once more controlled Nubia, but during the period of the Israelites' monarchy, now they're telling you right there who the Hyksos are. Those are Israelites, okay? So when you read these scriptures and you to back it up, you go to these different documents that these Edomites put together, it comes all together. So that's why we have to make you understand. That's how we know who the Cushites are. The Cushites today will be the modern day Ethiopians. That was a name that the Greeks gave them. The original Egyptians today we know as being the people of Sudan, because they look just like them. Okay? Same look and everything. Put Mizraim, Canaan, the Canaanites, which are Africans. So the scriptures give you it all.
Now, when I looked up the word Mizraim in the dictionary of biblical archaeology, and it says "see Egypt," and you go to Egypt, and it breaks down who the Egyptians are. So the people of Mizraim used to live or used to inhabit the land of Egypt today. So they're the modern day. I can't say modern day Egyptians, but that was their modern name that was changed by the Greeks, because the modern people of Egypt today are not the actual Hamites that were there in the past.
And the Greeks kicked them out. As a matter of fact, the Greeks under Ptolemy, they became the new pharaohs. And Ptolemy even adorned himself in that traditional garb that the traditional pharaohs used to wear, and claimed themselves the new pharaoh. So that's why when they'll hear so-called white people, some of them say, well, the Egyptians were so-called white. They're alluding back to the period when the Greeks took over and became the new Egyptians.
Yeah, that's why you got to know the dates.
Yeah, around the Ptolemy era, underneath Alexander the Creep. And that's another case of removing the neighbor's landmark and taking their fields violently, because they didn't ask the Egyptians for those fields. They just took them. And it's the same thing with America. They just took it. Then they became the new so-called North American Indians. That's why today you got so-called white people calling themselves North American Indians.
Yeah, and then, you got Cleopatra, which a lot of these people that's into them Hamitic studies, they'll say, well, look, Cleopatra was a black woman. No, Cleopatra was not a black woman. Cleopatra was actually a white woman, but it wasn't just one white woman. It was a name that was a title that was put on the daughters of these Ptolemaic rulers.
She was actually a so-called Jew. The history described as having a real big nose. All right, just like the so-called Jews got. That's where that term honky came from, because of their nose. They got that big nose,
All right, so Genesis 10 and 13, and Mizraim begot Ludim and Anamim and Lehabim and Naphtuhim and Pathrusim and Castohim, out of whom came Philistim and Caphtorim. Now the Philistines are the Philistines. Those are those tall Egyptians. That's why you see the people of Sudan, they're tall and lanky. Yeah, Manuk Bowl and you know, and the rest of those Hamites. You know, that's how you know who they are. Those real tall, linky, real dark Sudanese, you know, and other people that have those same characteristics down in the land of Egypt. I mean, in the land of Africa, so-called Africa. Those are the Mizraim, the people of Mizraim, because they were known for their stature. You know, when you go into the scriptures and you read about Goliath and, you know, and others, you know, those are the actual people, you know, of